Exercise physiologists have been having an identity crisis since before the profession was even born. In my opinion, it's a crisis faced equally by our governing body, Exercise and Sport Science Australia, or ESSA, and the thousands of exercise physiologists who've built their career around this profession. And I think there might be an answer, and that answer is goal dilution. And that's what I want to talk about today. But before we talk about goal dilution, let's define the problem. Let's work out what it is we're trying to solve. The whole profession of exercise physiology, it's sort of like that awkward teenager searching for an identity. Sometimes we hang out with the physio kids, but we don't really fit in. Sometimes we hang out with the personal trainers, but we don't quite fit in there either. We don't know where we belong. And heaven forbid if someone asks us what we do for work. And we can't answer, well, I'm an exercise physiologist, because no one knows what that means. There's just no public perception or recognition of our profession. So the best thing we can do is answer by defining what an exercise physiologist is, what an exercise physiologist does. So let's see if our governing body can help us with this one. This is our scope of practice as defined by ESSA. So according to ESSA, exercise physiologists are university qualified allied health professionals who prescribe, deliver, and adapt movement, physical activity, and exercise-based interventions to facilitate and optimize health, status, function, recovery, and independence. This helps people participate in activities at home, school, work, and in the community. AEPs provide services to people across the full health spectrum, healthy through to those at risk of developing a health condition and people with a health condition, a disability, and age-related illnesses and conditions, including chronic, complex conditions. Okay, I don't know about you, but that sort of sounds like some sort of committee tried to define as many terms and cram as many words as they could into 3 sentences. And I get it. It's really hard to try and distill and condense everything a profession does into one succinct statement. And that's what they've tried to do here. But my challenge to you, that subject statement, that scope of practice that I just read to you, could you repeat that back? Could you summarize that back to me? I couldn't. Maybe you could, but probably not. And if we don't clearly know what we do, that means that GPs don't know, allied health professionals who might want to refer to us don't know, insurers don't know, the government doesn't know, the NDIS doesn't know, my own mum doesn't know. So what hope do the people have that we're trying to help? All right, so here's what I think the problem is. I think the problem is we are trying to do everything. We are trying to help everyone. And if we claim to try and do everything, then what ends up is a profession that reads like the rich man's personal trainer or the poor man's physio. And that's not what we do. The boundaries of our profession are not clearly defined. The edges are blurry. And therefore, our whole profession is blurry. Now, I've got 2 little girls and they love coloring books. And when they finished coloring in whichever Disney princess it is that they're working on for that day, it's pretty clear to me what the picture is. Not because of the coloring, not because of the colors they've used, not because of how neat it is, but because of the solid black lines that they're coloring inside. Now, like every parent I know, I'm convinced that my kids are child prodigy, future Picasso superstar artists. However, if they didn't have these lines to color inside, I wouldn't be able to tell whether they've been working on Cinderella or the Little Mermaid. One has slippers and one has a tail, and I still can't tell the difference. And this is the problem. Our profession doesn't have these boundaries. Exercise physiology is defined by trying to color inside these lines, but that's the problem. We don't have lines. We don't have lines to color inside. And this is why it's so hard to define what we do. So to define the shape of exercise physiology, we can't define it by coloring inside. We need to define where our boundaries are. And even more importantly, what is outside those boundaries. We need to define what we don't do. And this is where the idea of goal dilution can come to the rescue. All right, to understand how goal dilution works, let's look at an example. Imagine that you're walking into a gym and you want to get really strong. You walk in looking for a strength coach. And as you walk in, you see all those A3 posters near reception. Each of these is a profile for one of the coaches or trainers who works there. You've got a hardcore picture of them standing there, crossing their arms, looking very serious. There's some cringe quote about true growth happening outside your comfort zone. And under that, each of these coaches lists their areas of expertise, their areas of speciality. So you walk up to that first poster and you look at what areas they specialize in. And the first person says that they specialize in weight loss, and toning and mobility and sport-specific training and prenatal exercise, postnatal exercise, yoga, Pilates, soft tissue, injury rehabilitation, exercise for menopause, bodybuilding, and strength training. You move along to that second profile. Areas of expertise, just strength training. And remember, your goal here is to get strong. So who do you choose? The first person, they do list strength training as one of their areas of expertise, but it's diluted by a whole bunch of other stuff. The second person, they listed only one thing: strength training. Surely you go with that person who specializes in just one thing. I know I would. So why does this position statement that defines our careers, our scope of practice, why does it contain so many different expertise? Now, I totally get it. We do study really hard and we've got a great breadth of experience, but I don't think it's the breadth that we should be emphasizing, but the depth of the experience we have. It's this depth that needs to form the public perception. You wouldn't see your general practitioner, your GP for brain surgery. You would see a specialist. Exercise physiologists need to be that specialist. They need to be the person that people go and see when they have some sort of clearly defined specialized problem. So we need to stop telling people what we do and we need to start telling people what we don't do. And this is what I mean by goal dilution. If we admit to being really bad at some things, it must mean that we're really good at other things. We don't do bodybuilding. We don't run fitness classes. We don't diagnose your injuries. We don't do manual therapy. We do use exercise to help to manage a whole range of chronic and complex health conditions. And that's what goal dilution is, blatantly and unapologetically screaming to the world about what we don't do. We need to send this message to the world that we know what we don't do and we know what we do and we're bloody good at it. Let's look at coffee drinkers. If you're a coffee drinker, you probably like a nice iced coffee or a piping hot coffee. So knowing that, would it be a good business idea to find the average of these two things and open a cafe that serves lukewarm coffee? No, that's a terrible idea. It's a terrible business idea because by trying to be everything to everyone, you end up being nothing to everyone. Serve your coffee cold or serve your coffee hot, but pick a lane and do it well. Now, there's this concept that I talk about quite a lot. It's this idea of red ocean thinking versus blue ocean thinking. The red ocean is where everyone is competing to try to be the best. Everyone is doing pretty much the same thing and you're just trying to be better at it than everyone else. And there's so much fighting that's going on to be the best, to get to the top, that there is blood in the water, the red ocean. And this is what I think all of these exercise-related, exercise-adjacent professions are doing right now. The blue ocean, on the other hand, is an ocean that only you are in. You are in a category of one. You're not trying to spend your time being better, you are trying to be different. And if you're different to everyone else, there is no competition. You're in this category of one. Now, to succeed in that really crowded red ocean with blood in the water, you need to be 10 times better than everyone else. To succeed in the blue ocean, however, you just need to be different. And it's easier to be different than it is to be 10 times better. Now, beyond knowing what we do and what we don't do, clearly defining who we are for is going to help too. So we need to define our avatar. This is our target customer, our target client. Now, I'm not talking about their demographic. I'm not talking about their age or their gender or their income or where they live. I'm talking about their psychographic. We need to be able to complete this sentence. Exercise physiology is for the type of person who ... So that sentence might read something like, exercise physiology is for the type of person who needs exercise to manage chronic and complex health conditions. I'm really confident that if we can define what we don't do, it's going to help us define what we as individuals and as a profession do. And if we can combine this statement with a succinct summary of who it is that we help, the psychographic of the person that we are for, I really do feel like we can shake this identity crisis and become a respected industry of experts who can form an indispensable part of the Australian health landscape.